So you just watched me at Fountain Life. I had my blood work done in a series of tests, and today I have my results back. It's about 10 days later. I'm at my home in Westchester in my office, and I want to go over my results for my blood work with you. I am also going to be seeing Dr. Shapiro next week to go over how I can improve any of these numbers. But first and foremost, I just wanted to go through my labs from my perspective with you before I seek to make improvements on these numbers. My labs overall, really great numbers. Not surprised. I see these all the time. Nothing on here was really shocking. Oh, there's one or two numbers I was a little shocked by, but overwhelmingly I was kind of like, okay, I expected this. And now the important part is, what can we do to continue to dial in these health markers? So we see here Boston Heart Diagnostics. This is who it was sent out to from Fountain Life. And the first thing that we're looking at here, it's lipids and apolipoproteins. Cholesterol. You have high density, which are HDL, which is considered your good cholesterol. And then you have LDL, your low density, which is considered bad cholesterol. The story of my life has really been up until TRT, both of these were in fantastic ranges. My LDL, always low. My HDL, always high. Awesome. My LDL is still spectacular. However, since getting on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, my HDL has really taken a nosedive. It's very common, but I was hoping, just because my diet is so spectacular, because I'm so physically active, that I could help prevent it, but it's just really not happening. And I need to see what I can do, at least from a medical standpoint, or just changes to lifestyle, that I can bring up my HDL again. So looking here, let's go through my LDL first. It's 63, freaking awesome. We love that. Apolipoprotein B, 67, amazing. My VLDL, my very low density, an 8, spectacular, super happy with all my LDL numbers. But if you look up here, HDL, 28, it's abysmal, guys. You really want to be at least at 40. I'd love to be back in the 60s. That's where I used to be before I got on testosterone replacement therapy, but 28, no bueno. I really would love to get this number into the 40s. Apolipoprotein A, which is basically a protein that helps remove bad cholesterol from your body, and again, involves HDL. You can see here it's an 84.5. That's no good as well. We also have alpha-1 tests over here. It's under Boston Heart HDL map test. You can see alpha-1, alpha-2, these things, they're low. Again, this is because of TRT, and I want to know, what can I do to improve these numbers, because potentially they can be linked to liver and lung disease. So we want to know, what can I do to fix these numbers? Before we move on, let's look at triglycerides. Very important. Mine are at 73. I take prescription EPA. I eat a lot of omega-3s. So for me, I'm not surprised my triglycerides are in excellent range. Really happy to see this. This panel is really in depth. It's an executive health test. So they're looking at numbers that some of these I'm not even familiar with looking at before today. So it's so much more in depth than your standard, lab work that you would get when you're going in for your annual physical. And along with that is this Boston Heart Cholesterol Balance Test. You can see the first two are within range, and you can see the third, it is out of range, and that has to do with phytosterols. Basically, I eat a lot of vegetables, and there's a compound within vegetables that can be very similar to cholesterol, so that might be driving these numbers up. I don't necessarily know if it's good or bad. Again, this is something I would have to talk to Dr. Shapiro about. This is a very in-depth analysis of my cholesterol, but most of these numbers, they're borderline, they're within range, which is great. Moving down, we look at my inflammation and my oxidation test. I said most of these numbers not surprise me. My CRP, which is your C-reactive protein, it's a marker of systemic inflammation in your body. It was borderline, it was 2.8. The reason that's shocking is I get that done about twice a year. I usually get my labs done 4 times a year, but I get my CRP looked at twice a year. The last time I had it done was this summer, 4 or 5 months ago, somewhere in there, and it was 0.255. Here on this test today, it was 2.8. The way I'm going to handle that is I'm just going to get retested at the end of the year. I plan on going getting labs done in December anyhow, before the year closes out. I think it'll be lower again. I think this test might got thrown off a little bit because I woke up, I was active for about 6 hours, I was getting an executive test done, And so because of it, I think it's possible that I had more systemic inflammation than typically when I like wake up and I go get my blood work done relatively early, first thing in the morning. But again, we have no way of knowing when your inflammation is high because of a CRP. We don't know where it's coming from. It's just systemic inflammation. But I would be surprised if that number is not back down the next time we go and look at it. You can also see here my fibrinogen. It's also borderline. It's 422. Not particularly concerned about it again. However, this does put you at an increased risk of clotting. So something to talk to the doctor about. I'm not really surprised that it's a little bit elevated because I'm on TRT and my hematocrit, it thickens. So could be a false positive. I don't know enough about this. What happens when you're on TRT is that your hematocrit elevates. It's known as secondary polycythemia, not to be confused with primary polycythemia, which can lead to stroke. So that might also be why this marker is elevated. But again, I want to talk to Dr. Shapiro about that and learn more. Going down to metabolic tests, you can see that my adiponectin, it's out of range. It's the only number within here. I'm not surprised that my glucose is perfect. It always is. Not surprised that my insulin's perfect. It always is. But my adiponectin is slightly out of range, and essentially this is a protein hormone. It helps regulate blood sugar and fatty acid breakdown. So it's an important biomarker because having a high number of this can potentially lead to type 2 diabetes or other metabolic syndromes. So we definitely want to talk to him about what's potentially going on there. A little shocking that all my other numbers are so perfect within the metabolic test, and this one in particular is off. So those are the two shockers that I see here so far. Looking over at the Boston Heart acid balance test, saturated fat, awesome place, trans fats, it's saying it's borderline, but it's fine. It's still within range. Unsaturated, saturated ratio, amazing. Omega-3, awesome. Surprisingly, DHA. So there's three major forms of omega-3s that we talk about: EPA, DHA, and ALA. EPA, I take a prescription grade fish oil that only has EPA in it each and every single morning. And from this, it looks like I need to take DHA as well. I'll continue taking my EPA in the morning, but now I'm gonna get a prescription for DHA in the evening. Super, super easy to resolve. We're gonna boost up that number. My ALA is where it's at. I could add chia seeds to my diet, but really I feel very comfortable with where it's at. I definitely wanna get more DHA based on the numbers we're seeing here today. Moving down, we now have my kidneys, which is my bun, my creatinine. These numbers are very, very in detail. You can see here they did a cysteine C, they did my GFR. All these numbers came back absolutely spectacular. The only thing that was off was creatine kinase, and the truth is that strenuous exercise and intramuscular injections can bring up that number. So we're borderline here. The number is 1233. The range is somewhere between 300 and 1500. When you see these yellows, it's kind of like concerning to the human eye, but all that means is that you're actually in range. You're not optimal. All my greens, you see all those tons of greens, those are optimal. When you're red, that means there's a problem. So I'm in range for this number, and the fact is that I obviously am working out in a strenuous manner, and then I openly, as obviously talked about over and over again here today, am on testosterone replacement therapy. Looking over here, ferritin is a little bit low. That's not really an issue. I donate blood to deal with secondary polycythemia. What you do when your hematocrit elevates is you can donate blood. Perhaps not necessary, but I do it anyhow just because I want to cover all my bridges. I want to mitigate any risk. So I do that, and that can lower your iron. But I also know my iron's within range, so it's fine, but it's bringing my ferritin down a little bit. You could always supplement iron if it got too high. Looking at my IGF-1s, we're out of range on this one. It's low. That goes back and forth. I look at that number all the time. IGF-1 is essentially growth hormone. It's how we measure it now. It is insulin-like growth factor 1. Sometimes I'm right in range, and sometimes I'm just below range. I think it's sleep. I really work very hard to get enough sleep, but my body fights me on it sometimes. I'm not naturally a good sleeper, but I do everything I can to mitigate it. We'll go down over here, looking at glucose, awesome. AST, ALT, my liver enzymes have always been slightly, just out of like perfection range. They're always in that borderline range. I've gone as far as to actually get a sonogram of my liver to make sure nothing's going on with a fatty liver. It's not, it's perfectly fine. It just continues to be elevated. Let's scroll down, see if anything else worth talking about. Hematocrit, like I said, hematocrit, that's a factor of TRT, which go ahead and will elevate these numbers. That's why I'm at 53.8. It's just time to go get a therapeutic phlebotomy or go ahead and donate blood. But overall, when I'm looking at these labs, the number one thing I see, the softball, is start taking DHA, prescription grade, a high level of DHA in the evenings, and then we've got to figure something out for my HDL, because that's a problem. I really, really want to work on that. And anything else I see here, like the IGF-1, occasionally it's out of range. The ferritin, occasionally it's out of range. I've seen that happen before. But those two things, the HDL and the DHA, I really want to actively go pursue and improve those two markers. So I hope that you've enjoyed all the content that we've been putting out here about my executive health scan. I hope this is informative. I hope it makes you go ask more questions to either your physician or to yourself about the things that you should be doing for your health. And I'm going to sit down and talk to Dr. Shapiro about some of these numbers and how I can improve them myself, because this is a major passion of mine. I worked very hard, climbed my ass out of poverty. I have a family. I'm an asset, and this is part of not only being my best self, but just being myself, period, because you have to be alive to play the game. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed what you saw today. If you like what you saw, you can hit subscribe. I put out short form content on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram each and every single day. And each week we put out at least one long format piece of content here on YouTube.